Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Suranjali Seal, and like I always say, if you are somebody that loves literature and is all about literature, then this is the channel for you. In our video today, we're going to discuss Plato and his Allegory of the Cave. Now, if you have been following my videos, you would know that we have already begun with literary criticism, and now we're discussing the Greek critics, of which we have completed Socrates. And we've discussed in detail his ideas, his philosophies, his life and his works, and then we have moved on with his student Plato. And I've already mentioned in my previous video that I'll be dividing this lecture on Plato into three parts. The first part would deal with his theory of forms. This is the second part where we'll be discussing his Allegory of the Cave, and in the third part, which is the final part, we'll be discussing the idea of Platonic love and the concept of Platonic idealism, and with that we'll be done with Plato as well. So I've already completed and discussed the theory of forms. I've uploaded my video already on the theory of forms, so make sure you check that out. Today we'll be discussing the Allegory of the Cave, and this concept has been widely celebrated, no doubt, but it has also interestingly been inspiring. It has been the ground of inspiration for many movies as well, so we're going to look at all of that. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so guys, I want to mention something for reference. If you see the picture on the screen, that is the entire or the whole pictorial representation of what the Allegory of the Cave by Plato is. So that's the pictorial representation. Now in the next two slides, we're going to begin with the summary first. We are going to understand the summary, what was his philosophy, then we're going to discuss what does it actually mean, its symbolisms, its relation to the theory of forms, everything, okay? So because we're beginning with the summary and because there are parts to it, I've actually cropped the picture out in the next two slides. So I'm just informing this that just for the sake of reference, I've cropped the picture in the next two slides, and this is the entire picture of the Allegory of the Cave, okay? So let's begin with the summary of the Allegory of the Cave by Plato. Okay, so Plato's Allegory of the Cave is an allegory presented by the Greek philosopher Plato in his work Republic, Book 7. So the thing that you have to remember here, what are the takeaways? First, that it is an allegory. Second, where and who or where does it feature? Okay, which book does it feature? So the meaning of an allegory along with its concrete definition and explanation along with examples, I have already given in my Edmund Spencer video. I've discussed what an allegory is along with examples there when we discussed the Fairy Queen. So I'm going to give you just an overview, I'll explain what an allegory is in very layman's terms so that you understand what it is. If you're interested in concrete definitions and in-depth analysis, then please do refer to my Edmund Spencer video, okay? Here I'm just going to give you an overview. Just for your understanding. So an allegory can be a picture, it can be a work of art, it can be a painting, like literature, anything, okay, which actually symbolizes or represents something. It can represent peoples, events, characters, abstract ideas, anything. So these are the things that an allegory represents. So if you consider the picture also of the Allegory of the Cave, everything that you see in that picture, it stands for something, it symbolizes something, it represents something. We'll understand all of that as we move forward, okay? So basically an allegory is like it symbolizes something or represents something, okay? Anything. It can be a painting, picture, work of art which represents or symbolizes something, okay? It can be abstract ideas also. So now it is written, and the second thing that you have to remember here is where does it feature? It features in Republic, Book 7. So Plato had written his book. The title of the book is Republic, okay? And this Republic has been divided into several parts, and in Book 7 of the Republic is where this Allegory of the Cave features. So again, concrete facts which you have to remember. Then it is written as a dialogue between Plato's brother Glaucon and his mentor Socrates, narrated by the latter. So again, you have to remember concrete facts. Who is this dialogue between? It's his Plato's brother Glaucon and his mentor, his teacher Socrates, and the entire Allegory of the Cave has been narrated by Socrates, okay? So now we're going to begin with the summary. So first part is the imprisonment within the cave. If you refer to the whole picture, that just in the previous slide, the whole picture, you'll see there's inside the cave and there's outside the cave, okay? So we're going to begin at what is taking place inside the cave. So I've cropped the picture here just for reference, like I've mentioned. So this is inside the cave, the scene inside the cave. We'll try to understand what it is, okay? So Plato begins by having Socrates ask Glaucon to imagine a cave where people have been imprisoned from childhood but not from birth. So he's saying that there are a group of people, you can see over here, that there are a group of people who have been chained. Okay, they have a wall in front of them, then they have a wall, a brick wall behind them also, and then they're chained. They're chained from their neck also, from their legs also. Okay, they have been chained there. Their necks have been chained so that they cannot look left and right, round about, nowhere. They have to constantly stare at that wall only. Okay, now they have been, what is important here is that they have been imprisoned from childhood but not from birth. It is not from birth that they have been imprisoned. They have been chained from childhood. Okay. These prisoners are chained so that their legs and necks are fixed, like I've mentioned. Behind the prisoners is a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners is a raised walkway with a low wall behind which people walk carrying objects or puppets of men and other living things. Now let's just take this slow. They are saying that behind the prisoners is a fire, like I'm highlighting there, that is the fire. And then between the fire and the prisoners, between these two, is a raised walkway. You can see the people who are walking there, that's a walkway. That means a passage to walk, okay? They have a passage, that's a walkway. And behind, people are walking in that walkway, and with a low wall, there's a low wall, okay? In that walkway, there's a low wall. Now, there are people who are carrying puppets. You can see there's a horse, then I think that's either a wolf or a dog, and then we have a man also. You can see in the picture over here, like I've just shown. So those are the puppets they're carrying, and their shadows are being cast on the wall. You can see that, right? That the shadows are being cast on the wall. The sounds of the people talking echo off the walls. Okay, so now the people who carry these things, they're echoing. Okay, they're talking from behind. When they're carrying these puppets, they're talking with each other. The prisoners believe these sounds come from the shadows. So now they believe that it's the man, the horse, and the dogs that are there, that the shadows are speaking, because their necks are bound. They cannot turn back and see who it is, right? They cannot see that it's actually people carrying these puppets. So they think that it's actually the shadows that are talking. Okay. Socrates suggests, okay, that the shadows are reality for the prisoners because they have never seen anything else. They do not realize that what they see are shadows of objects in front of a fire, much less that these objects are inspired by real things outside the cave which they do not see. So Socrates suggests that the prisoners, because they cannot move their necks, they don't know life outside that cave, and they don't know what actually is going on behind the wall because they cannot see only. Their necks are fixed and they can only see the shadows and overhear the talking. So they think that their reality, they think that the shadows are the reality. They think that the shadows talking, the shadows that they see in front of them on the wall, that is the reality. Okay. And why do they think it's the reality? It's because they've not seen anything else. If they could turn their necks around, and if the wall wouldn't be there behind them, then they would see that it's people carrying the puppets. So they would know that, okay, this is the reality. But because they have not seen anything else, the whole life they've only seen the shadows. So for them, the shadow is the reality. Okay. So they do not realize that what they see are shadows of objects in front of a fire, much less that these objects are inspired by real things outside the cave which they do not see. So you see, everything that is these prisoners are carrying, they are real life objects, right? There's a man you can see, or a soldier, then you have a horse, and then you have a dog, okay, or a wolf, whatever you can call. I think it is a dog. So, you know, all of these are inspired by real things outside the cave. These are just puppets. The real thing is outside the cave. So, you know, they don't, first of all, they think that the shadows are real. Second of all, they don't even realize that these are depictions of actual things outside the cave. Even the shadow, remember he says that poetry is twice removed from reality. Okay. Why? Because it's an imitation of an imitation. So here too, the shadow is an imitation of an imitation. Which is the first imitation? The puppets. Puppets are first made by, suppose they saw a horse outside the cave. Then they made the puppet of the horse inside the cave. Then they were walking in front of the fire. then that puppet of the horse was actually the shadow was cast on that wall. So it's twice removed, you see. So what he's trying to say over here is, because the prisoners are unable to turn around, because they don't know anything else about life, because for their whole life they've not seen anything else, not known anything else, therefore whatever they see on the wall, that is reality for them. Now you see how it resonates with the theory of forms. I've discussed theory of forms in detail with numerous examples, okay? And if you have understood theory of forms, this should be very crystal clear. So in the theory of forms, he says there's this realm of forms, right, which we can understand through reason. In my video on the theory of forms, I do suggest that do have a look at it, because it is one of the most celebrated philosophies by Plato. And if you've understood that, you'll understand this very easily. So please do check that video out. And again, just for recap, I'll tell you that he talks about this realm of forms, okay? For example, this is a bag, okay? Now in this bag there are many ideas. I'm just giving for example, okay? This is just an example, because I cannot recap the whole topic again because I've already dealt with it in that video. So I'll just recap a little bit so that you understand. Suppose there's this bag and it has a lot of ideas, okay? Then one by one this idea comes out from this bag. So when we see these around us, these ideas, when they come out of the bag, they become an imitation of what? That idea inside the bag. So what he says, that there's a realm of forms. In this realm of forms, there are many ideas, okay? Like when, suppose I write poetry. So when I'm writing, my brain is here, physical brain is here, but my mind, what about my mind? Brain is there, but my mind has ideas coming from where? That realm of forms. It gives me ideas, gives me plot, gives me ideas and plot lines and creativity, okay? And that idea I take and then I kind of copy it down. I Xerox it down. It's like a blueprint. That realm of forms, it's like a blueprint. I take from there and then I jot it down. So what Plato says is that I'm imitating. This is an imitation. Whatever I'm jotting down is an imitation. That realm of forms is perfection. It's a perfect blueprint of perfection. Okay. So here too what he's saying, that you can see that the horse also, it's a shadow. The puppet also has been inspired from outside. So whatever that realm of forms is reality, but these people don't know about it. The prisoners don't know about it, because their entire life they've only seen the shadows. And Plato also tells us in the theory of forms that in order to understand the realm of forms, you have to use your reason. So for these people who are relying on their senses, on their eyesight, on their senses, no, who for their entire lives they've only seen the shadows, that is their reality. These people who are using their senses, they're using their eyesight to actually say, okay, this is true. They're not using their reason. So Plato is always suggesting that reason has to be used in order to understand the theory of forms, okay, in order to understand the realm of forms. Now, a concrete answer till today we don't have, okay, that does the forms really exist. But his theory of forms, like I've already discussed, has given us a solution to the problem of universals. So it's a start. Okay, so this is what the first part, imprisonment in the cave, that the people are actually chained inside. So even though they're seeing the shadows cast, they are shadows cast. We know, we can see it in the picture, that they're shadows cast of puppets which have been copied from the outside world. Okay, these are puppets, shadows are being cast, and they think it's reality. Why? Because they've been chained. Now, if you think from a symbolic level, they're chained by what? The materialism that we see around us. Okay, because we are so taken up by what we see with our senses, perceive with our senses, we don't think of that realm which exists above, which is transcendent to time and space, he says. We don't think about that. Why? Because we're occupied with whatever we see with our senses. So we don't realize this realm of forms. Okay, so that is the thing which is highlighted here, that these prisoners are actually they are fixed in one place, their necks are fixed so that they cannot move, and they are seeing shadows cast on the wall and they think that is reality. Okay, so now let's move on further. Okay, so through the allegory of the cave, what Plato is trying to discern and what he's trying to establish, and the question over here is not really what is reality simply, because for the prisoners, the shadows are the reality, no doubt, okay? But then what he's actually questioning is, what is ultimate reality? What is truth? Okay, so that is the question here. Now what we are going to do is we're going to see how, if one of the prisoners were to go out of the cave. This is the portion where we're going to look at the departure from the cave. Okay, what would happen? So Socrates then supposes, okay, that the prisoners are released. What if the prisoners are released and they get to go out? Okay, a freed prisoner would look around and see the fire. Okay, so you remember it's the prisoners, the wall, the people carrying the puppets, and then there's the fire, okay, which is helping cast the shadows. So he will look at the fire. The light would hurt his eyes and make it difficult for him to see the objects casting the shadows. Now, see, okay, what happens is, if you stay in the dark for too long, I think it's natural with us also. When you stay in the dark, in a dark room, you just switch off all the lights and you stay there for hours, okay? The moment you switch on one bright light, once you switch on one bright light, no, it'll hurt your eyes. Like, it'll take some time for you to adjust to the light, okay? So what he's saying, that a freed prisoner, the moment like he'd be released, because he's been looking at the shadows, there's this dark enclosed space where he's like looking at the shadows constantly. One day he's released, he'll just turn back, and the first thing that he'll see once he's freed is that fire, and that brightness of the fire would hurt his eyes, so much so that it'll make it difficult for him to see the objects casting the shadows. Like, it'll blind him, so chances are that he will not see those people who are carrying the puppets. He won't be able to see them. So, because he's blinded, okay? So, if he were told that what he is seeing is real instead of the other version of reality he sees in the wall, he would not believe it. So, suppose he's like trying to adjust to the light and somebody's telling him, you saw, this is reality. There are people carrying puppets. What you're seeing is just the shadows. Because he's too blinded by the light, he won't believe the person. You know, he won't believe. He was like that, I don't know what you're talking about. That's the reality for me. The shadows are the reality for me. Because he's not being able to see the puppets, because the truth or the reality is so bright for him at the moment, okay? After living constantly in the darkness, all of a sudden when he's, and you understand this symbolically also, okay? After constantly living in the darkness, all of a sudden he's near light. And it's blinding him, hurting his eyes, so he cannot even see the people carrying the puppets carefully. He cannot see them, observe them, and cannot see them clearly. So for him, his reality is still the shadows. He's not believing. If someone were to tell him that that is not reality, he will not believe, okay? So in his pain, because it's hurting his eyes, so in his pain, Socrates continues, the freed prisoner would turn away and run back to what he is accustomed to, that is the shadows of the carried objects. That is, he would run back to the darkness. Okay, because the truth is so much. There's one movie I remember, I think if I'm not mistaken, please do check it, okay? I think it was Indiana Jones, okay? And I don't remember the exact name of the movie, but it had to do with a skull, and they were on this treasure hunt where they had to go and hunt for this skull, okay? It's supposed to give you infinite knowledge. So this lady who, the bad guy, okay, the bad lady who actually ultimately gets the skull, and she looks at it and she's like, give me all that is there to know about the universe. You know, she likes it in the beginning. She's like, tell me more, tell me more. But as she's given this this knowledge of the universe, right, as she's staring at the skull, a point comes where she says, no more, don't give me the knowledge anymore, no more, I can't take it anymore, it's too much, it's too much. And then you will see, even in the movie also, her eyes, no, they start like, there's light that starts coming out of her eyes, like it's too much for her, like she literally bursts, okay? So like, you know, it's too much for her, the knowledge. So the idea, like why I'm saying it is just for reference, that, you know, because this prisoner, he's outside and the light is blinding him, and the truth is too much for him, you know, it's too much for him, so he would prefer to be ignorant. He would want to go back to the shadows, you know, he'd run back to his comfort zone. So, you know, the light would hurt his eyes and he would escape by turning away to the things which he was able to look at, and these he would believe to be clearer than what was being shown to him. So, you know, in his comfort zone, he would be more comfortable, naturally, okay? So that's where he would run to again. So Socrates continues, suppose that someone should drag him by force, that you know that, no, you have to look at the truth, you come, I'll drag you by force up, okay? Like what if someone were to drag him out of the cave, okay, up the rough ascent that is outside the cave, and the steep way up, and never stop until he could drag him out into the light of the sun. The sun here would be maybe truth, light of the sun, which will help him see the truth, Okay, so he's dragged out of the cave only. It's no more the fire that is there, it is the sun. So he's dragged out, and then the prisoner would be angry and in pain, because see, the fire only was blinding for him. This is the sun. So he's going out, he's in agony and he's in pain, so that makes him angry. So, and this would only worsen when the radiant light of the sun overwhelms his eyes and blinds him. Like I said, knowledge, right? In that movie also, if you watch, it has to do with the crystal skull something. Okay, so if you would want to watch the movie, you can. So towards the end, it's too much. The truth is too much. Knowledge is too much, you understand? So here too, when the prisoner will be by force dragged out, he'll be angry, he'll be in pain, because why? It's not just the fire now, it's the actual rays of the sun, the truth. Okay, so slowly his eyes would adjust to the light of the sun. So slowly, you know, it will adjust to the light of the sun. First he can see only shadows. It happens to us also. Like if you stay too much in the sunlight and you come back home, you take time to adjust with the light. And if you're in too much in darkness and you suddenly go out into light, or somebody switches on the light, you take some time to adjust. So first he can only see shadows. Gradually he can see the reflections of people and things in water, and then later see the people and things themselves. Eventually he is able to look at the stars and moon at night, until finally he can look upon the sun itself. Only after he can look straight at the sun is he able to reason about it and what it is. So what he's saying is, you know, we say, what is this? A pen. Okay, a pen can be black ink, red ink, different types of pen, fountain pens, gel pens, ball pens. So you understand what is a pen, what is that essence that makes it a pen. You'll understand it once you look at the truth, once you understand the form. Once you understand the form, you'll be able to once you understand that realm of reason, you'll be able to answer what a pen actually is. What is justice? You might say equal laws for everyone, but is that actually justice? If you sit and think about what justice actually is, the answer is very complicated. So what he's saying is, once the person will start adjusting to the light, he'll first notice the actual things around, the horses, the dogs, he'll see the men around. Then he'll turn back and then he'll see the puppeteers, the people who are carrying the puppets. Then he'll realize that, you know, this is the reality. That is what I've been seeing the shadows of. Okay, so he'll be able to distinguish. Then at the end, slowly, as he's able to observe, as he's able to understand these things, he'll be able to gaze at the sun. Once he's able to gaze at the sun, the truth, okay, once he's able to gaze at the sun, he'll actually be able to understand what all of these things actually are, what the form actually is, what the sun itself is. And he can do this through his reason. He is able to reason about it and what it is. So, you know, it's closely related to the theory of forms. I'm repeating again and again, watch that other video of mine. This will be crystal clear. But I think that this is clear enough the way I have explained. So this is departure from the cave. Now we'll look at the third section, which is the final section of the summary, and then we'll move ahead with a little bit of discussion, okay, of this allegory of the cave. So let's move on forward. Okay, now this section is about the return to the cave. Now you might argue that after so much of turmoil, why would one want to return back to the cave? Okay, but it would make sense. Just let's have a look at it, okay, and then we'll discuss. So Socrates continues saying that the free prisoner would think that the world outside the cave was superior to the world he experienced in the cave, and attempt to share this with the prisoners remaining in the cave, attempting to bring them onto the journey he had just endured. So he says that the free prisoner would think that the outside the cave, the truth, the knowledge that he has just gained, that is superior to the life that he was living inside, because that is a life in chains. Okay, he was bound that time and he was not living in reality. Now that he knows what reality, what truth, what knowledge actually is, he would want that people like him who are bound in shackles, right, who are bound by those shadows, who are bound by the physical world, he would want to bring them out also, naturally. So he's saying that he would want to share this with the prisoners remaining in the cave, attempting to bring them onto the journey he had just endured. So he would bless himself for the change and pity the other prisoners, so naturally, and would want to bring his fellow cave dwellers out of the cave and into the sunlight. Okay, the returning prisoner, whose eyes have become accustomed to the sunlight, would be blind when he re-entered the cave. You see, like I said, it has happened. Suppose you take 10 minutes in the sun and you come back into a dark room, you will take a lot of time to adjust because you won't be able to see things clearly. Okay, so for him also, he's entering a dark cave again from that light. Okay, so he won't be able to see properly. So just as he was when he was first exposed to the sun, you know, it's vice versa. So the prisoners who remained, according to the dialogue, would infer from the returning man's blindness that the journey out of the cave had harmed him and that they should not undertake a similar journey. So see, so what happened is Plato is saying over here through Socrates' character that he's saying that the person has come back blind because he's taking time to adjust, right? So when he'll try to tell them that outside is the real world, they'll get scared by seeing his blindness. You know, they will not try to understand why did he become blind. They'll just see him as a blind person and they'll say that, okay, we don't want to go outside because we'll also get affected that way. So, you know, they will infer from the returning man's blindness that the journey out of the cave had harmed him. Instead of seeing or trying to understand that it had helped him, they would see it as if it had harmed him. Okay. And harmed him, and that they should not undertake a similar journey. They would get scared. So Socrates concludes that the prisoners, if they were able, would therefore reach out and kill anyone who attempted to drag them out of the cave. Okay. Now, you know that Socrates was Plato's mentor and he was made to drink hemlock. He was given the death penalty by hemlock. Now, I have discussed this again, detailed it in the Socrates video. I'll just give an overview. So Socrates has been, the oracle at Delphi had said that Socrates is the wisest person in Athens. Okay, and Socrates used the Socratic method and Socratic dialogue to actually, talk and get into this conversation with his interlocutors about various topics. He would cross-question people and establish the fact that he and they also knew nothing. The truth about his Socratic paradox, which I had talked about, that I know that I know nothing. Okay, like I've explained in that video also, that suppose we all are living our lives today, but just imagine you are put outside the earth. This is the earth, planet earth, and you're just outside of it. Does anything make sense? Do you actually know what the universe is about? Do you actually know what is going to happen tomorrow? We don't. We don't even know fully how the universe works today. Okay. So what Socrates at that time in the BC era had said is that I know nothing. So he was called wise because why? He recognized his own ignorance. Then after that, the people in power in Athens, and he was actually accused, okay, of corrupting the youth in Athens. Then he was given the death penalty by drinking hemlock, a poisonous liquid. So, you know, this is also reminiscent of that. This is also in one way symbolic of that. You understand? He's saying that anyone who has had like true knowledge, true wisdom, okay, who has seen the truth, comes back and tries to tell the other prisoners, tries to take them out of the cave. This is like what I feel, okay? This is what, when I read, this is what I was reminded of. So you can think about it. So if this prisoner would come back, okay, and try to drag the other prisoners outside, that this is the truth. What you see around you is just not reality, okay? They would reach out and kill anyone who attempted to drag them out, because they did not see reality yet. They're still in their comfort zone. They would not want to accept it, okay? So here too, he's saying that because this person who's returning back, because he's not blinded because of the sun, he's blinded because of the darkness of the cave. So, but then the other prisoners would see that and think that it is because he went out, that's why he became blind. Okay. So this is the whole allegory of the cave. Now we'll just discuss a few points about it. Okay. And that would be our last slide. So let's get right into it. Okay, so guys, let's look at the last slide and discuss a few points about the allegory of the cave. Okay, so apart from the first slide where we had discussed the things that you need to remember, first, who is the dialogue between, what kind of dialogue it is, which book does it feature, and what is the meaning of an allegory. Now, these are the things you have to remember. Okay, so this particular piece of philosophy routinely comes up in discussions of how humans perceive reality, okay, and whether there is any higher truth to existence. I'll give one more example. Suppose today I say that, you would say, what do you mean by reality? Reality is everything that we're looking around us. Okay. So if you say reality is whatever we see, I'm just giving an example. Suppose today I say, what is your reality? You'll be like, whatever I'm being able to see around me, that is reality. Now I'll say, okay, fine. Suppose there are 4 of you and this is me. Okay. Me and a few more people with me. We'll say that, okay, let us look outside the window. So I'll say that, look at the tree outside the window. So fine, we all look at the tree outside the window. Then you see this, some of you might be looking at the leaf. I might be looking at the entire tree. Another person might be looking at its branches. Another person might be looking at its trunk. Some other person might not be looking at the tree only, might be distracted and looking at a house in the distance. So in this moment in time, at this point in time, my reality is the tree, your reality is the leaves, another person's reality is looking at the branches, that's his reality. The person who's looking at the house in the distance, that's his or her reality. And the person who's looking at the bark of the tree or the trunk of the tree, that is his or her reality. So what is reality? What is reality? What is real? How do you know what is real? Because suppose now I'm explaining to you, some of you might be looking at the screen, some of you might be looking at a sentence on the screen, some of you might be looking at my video at the bottom and trying to talk, some of you might be looking at the background, some of you might be looking at the light, some of you might be looking at other things on the screen. So what I'm trying to say is reality is, if you say that it's whatever you see with your eyes, that's real, then at this point in time we're all seeing different things. Then what is real? That is what Plato dealt with. How do we perceive reality? What is reality? If you understand that realm of forms, the answer is there in that unseen realm where there are ideas. What is real? Reality exists there. Whatever we see around us is just a copy of that idea. What reality is, you can understand that by using your reason. Okay, so this is how we perceive reality and whether there is any higher truth to existence. This is the question. We're still nowhere closer to an answer. There's still research going on, debates going on, discussions going on. We're still going on with this idea of what reality actually is, and all the philosophies of Plato's, they're still being studied today. Research is being conducted on them till today. So there's no answer till now. Then belief versus knowledge is another. Belief is whatever we see in the shadows, whatever we perceive around us is the truth. And knowledge, what is true knowledge? What is real? What is knowledge? What is the realm of forms? What is truth? All of these things are addressed here in the allegory of the cave. So you can add this also in your answers, okay? It is belief versus knowledge. Knowledge is when he goes out and perceives the sun, and then he's able to distinguish between the realm of forms and what he sees around the material world around him. You know, he can distinguish between truth and the shadows. Okay, so inside the cave versus outside the cave. Okay, belief versus knowledge. Socrates' and Plato's point is that once we understand what reality is, the forms. So again, theory of the forms. Please watch that video. So once we understand what reality actually is, the forms. It is the job of the informed to lead the ignorant. That's what Socrates tried to do also. He tried to do that. So it is it is the duty, or it is the job of the informed, that is the person who has seen or has gained that knowledge, to lead the ignorant out of the cave. To lead the ignorant out of the cave, that means out of the cave the rest of them, okay, who are imprisoned still, and into true knowledge. This means, of course, that those who still are uninformed will resist. Okay, we've seen that, since after all the cave is all they've ever known. Okay, so what do the prisoners symbolize in the allegory of the cave? The prisoners represent humans, us, okay, particularly people who are immersed in superficial world of appearances. So we are the ones, okay, we what we wear, what we eat, how do we have to behave, what we post on social media, what we read, you know, this appearances, what we buy, what brand we are buying, what shoes we're buying. These are the kind of things that he's dealing with, that these are the world of appearances. Appearances versus reality. What is actual reality? Okay, and people have lost the ability to know reality and the world's authentic needs. What is the actual need of the world? Okay, people have failed to recognize that humans are prisoners of a new reality based on superficiality and can no longer see the true meaning of life. Okay, this is according to Plato. So this is what the prisoners symbolize. What is the main lesson of the allegory of the cave? The allegory of the cave likely serves as a wake-up call for people to seek the truth and not settle for what they see in front of them as reality and truth. Okay, then what are the 5 main stages of the allegory of the cave? This again you have to remember. The enchantment to the shadows, that attraction to the shadows, believing that that's reality, that's first. The second is the releasement from the chains, the moment that chain is broken, right? And then you have the passage out of the cave. Okay, you need your chains to be broken to go out of the cave, right? If you're still chained, how can you go out? So that after the breaking of the chains, then you go out of the cave. The light of the sun, that is the fourth. And finally, the return from the light to the sun, of the sun into the cave. These are the 5 stages of the allegory of the cave. So I think that this is very clear. Now, if you are interested in watching, like I said in the beginning of the video, that there are many movies that have been inspired by the allegory of the cave, and one famous one is The Matrix. I think you've heard of it, and this movie is inspired, the basis is it's inspired from the allegory of the cave. It's very, very interesting. Now that you have understood the allegory of the cave and the theory of forms, I think when you go and watch this movie, it's going to make a whole lot of sense to you, and it's going to be very, very interesting. So if you're interested, do watch the movie. And with this, we are done with Plato's allegory of the cave. In my next video, we're going to discuss Platonic love and Platonic idealism. So if this video has been helpful for you, then do like the video, share the video, and subscribe to my channel for similar content. And till we meet again, I really hope that you stay happy and healthy. See you in the next one.